Hello there. Many thanks for joining the online Q&A for this year's Singapore International Film Festival. Your debut feature, Beginning, is selected for our Asian feature competition this year, so welcome. And I would like to start by talking about the film's leading character. So the film focuses on the internal struggle of a woman who is facing assault from the community and the authority around her, and her role supporting her husband's religion. However, I found the greater violence comes in a less visible form from within more intimate space. So for example, for the inability for her husband to understand her isolation, or from the abuse of a man who claimed to represent the police force. So if we want to talk about the theme of the film, she seems to be facing some kind of existential violence implied by the way in which your camera positioned her and the oppressive off-screen space that we don't often see. So I would like to start with your choice of putting Yena at the center of your story. Can you tell us about what propelled you to tell a story led by a female character, where the character is struggle to be understood, where it come to terms with her own being?
Hello, thank you.
Thank you.
So I was thinking for a long time to make a film about a character which maybe in other more conservative or more traditional forms of the film narrative would be a secondary character. I think she would be more in the background because she's the wife of a religious leader. And I was thinking about like what is her life, what is her day-to-day routine. And I think that those questions, the existential questions about this woman were the most important for me, because the question of what does it mean to be understood, what does it mean to love another in general? Like how much do we need to understand another in order to love them? So I was asking those questions constantly to myself when I was working on a script. And I think maybe perhaps now, even more than before, those questions are important when we're like sitting in isolation in our homes. The questions of our choices or the lives we live, are those truly our choices that we made in life? So those were the most important questions I was asking myself, and the character was shaping into what we see now on the screen.
I also want to ask a further question, because I remember a few years ago there were some other quite excellent films made by Georgian female directors, such as Scary Mothers or My Happy Family. So do you see, in terms of your story, do you see any specifics of a female positioned in the society, in a Georgian state or society?
Well, I think that the position can be specific in any place. I mean, even Georgia is so different from one place to another. And for example, Scary Mother or My Happy Family are made in the capital of Georgia. But my film is made in a very really small town, in a small community, in the far away from the capital. But more importantly than just the position of a woman, for me, the most important questions are those of the existential questions of we as women or we as humans are asking ourselves. And I really hope that through this very local setting and very personal setting, in a way, that everybody, like each member in the audience, would be able to ask their own questions. I think that's what's important, more important than just questioning the particular smaller communities or examining the smaller communities.
I read in one of the interviews, you mentioned that when you place the camera, you create a space, and I feel space is very important in your film. So the space reflects the environment Yena inhabited, and then is built on the off-screen sound. So we often see in the beginning of the shot, we only hear things, but we are not sure of the action, and the action only reveal later. So there is a violence, I feel, gradually built out from how you position the camera, and then gradually I learned to read the space as hostile and to expect violence. Can you talk a bit more about your approach to composition and framing and the relation between actions within the frame and outside the space?
Well, for me, at least, cinema is starts with the camera. Everything depends on where and how do you place the camera, because you create the space and you start to work with time at the same time. Because I think that those feelings or those emotions that accumulate through each shot, I really hope that also they do accumulate from one shot to another and things resonate maybe after a few shots again. In a way, cinema has this nature. It's a cumulative nature. Something starts to build up, and that something is intangible, because I don't know how else you could work with time. Of course, with editing and cutting, but for me, maybe it's more important to really allow the audience to immerse within each shot, because this film for me is about looking, and it's an invitation to look at something which is happening in front of us. And by placing the camera, of course, you do create the space. And the rest is really up to the audience, because I do believe that the more you show and the more you say in the frame and what's happening on the screen, the less space you leave to the audience. And audience is more passive then. But I really wish the audience would be more active. So maybe in often giving less gives the audience members the opportunity to step towards the film or to be more active.
I like what you said, because I found often when I read the comments or reviews, a lot of people pick up on one scene when Diana is lying on the grass, and then it's a very long shot with the bird singing. But strangely, I only come to realize that scene because the scene before that scene, when she was on the bus, and that was for me a very strange shot, because you only see her ear and there's nothing descriptive in that film, but the hand of a stranger creeping at the back, and I can feel that very strong discomfort in that space. So then when you follow with her lying on the grass, for me, I feel that's her cleansing her space. And I really appreciate the time you give to that shot, because I feel that actually shows how much she needs to recover, or she needs to reclaim her space. I'm not sure if my reading is correct, but I feel when I feel that scene, I actually feel I can breathe with her. Yeah.
Well, I guess it's not even about correct or incorrect. It's exactly for that everybody who's watching, it resonates in us in one way or another, and we do bring our own meanings. And especially in the contemporary society where there are so many images around us, and where experience of life is almost audiovisual fully with our cell phones, and how much we use media in one way or another in our everyday life. So I was questioning that, how much do I really need to show? Because sometimes you can show just one part or like a fragment, and then the rest audience can really create in their minds, because the contemporary society, all of us, we have so many, we don't need to be told everything anymore. I think there is so much that we can bring on our own, and it starts to accumulate. Something starts to, and I still do believe, and this is my first feature, so I don't know what I will learn or what I will not learn in the future. But I do believe that cinema is about something which is intangible. It's something we can't fully grasp nor fully touch in a way. It happens. And I also do believe, and it's such a pity that I cannot go to watch the film with the audience, different audiences around the world, because I do believe that film will be perceived in a totally different way from one country to another, or one screening to another, even in the same places, because of like what is the vibe in the theater, what starts to, how people start to feel in the theater. And I think that maybe it is, as a director, I am risking maybe to be misunderstood or not fully understood. But I think that it's worth taking this risk.
I want to ask you a bit more about the violence.
Mm-hmm.
I feel because in the film, another very powerful shot, but also I feel very ambiguous one is when the self-proclaimed detective came to Yena's house, and then he sits on the sofa and then command her to do things she doesn't want to do, and that violence, I feel it. The reason I say ambiguous is because I feel the choice Yena can make at that moment can be interpreted differently by the audience. Some audience may feel differently. For me, I feel it's a very ambiguous thing. Can you share with us the psychology you think she's going through when you design that scene?
Thank you. I think that again, like to give the audience opportunity to think about the choices that the character makes on screen, I really hope that it resonates within us to think about choices we would make. And perhaps with humans we do tend to believe that we would make another choice. But I personally, I want to question that. For me, because even though this film portrays, it's set in the religious community, and on one layer, it does talk about religion and the oppression from the society. But at the end, for me, everything gets down to the personal choices that we all make. Because no matter which community we live in or how, it's still us, we make choices. And yes, this scene in a way also questions, or at least invites the audience to question the choices that we would make. And maybe it's ambiguous in that sense because it never gives an like specific answer why she's doing something that she's doing, or specifically this is when she made a decision. Because maybe in more traditional narrative it would be a cut, so I could like accentuate more, like getting closer to her face, being like, this is when she's making a decision, this is why she's doing this. But I just don't believe in doing so in this film, because first of all, I want my character, her, to have some sort of opacity. Because why do we need to understand everything as a society? Because in a way, if we know everything about the character and all her choices are super specific, then it creates also a distance between us and her. Because it becomes illustrative and we look at the film as just a story of another, a story of someone else. And we are safe in that moment because it's not us. We would make other choices, we think, but would we really?
Then on that, following that, I sort of jumped quite quickly to the ending, because from what I heard actually is about for me it's like you prefer not to make the decision or make judgments on some people's decisions, whether she goes this way or that way. And I found what's really interesting for the ending is the rapist, the person who carried out the assault on Yena. He sort of looked towards us. I'm not sure he's looking directly to the camera, but it sort of almost break the fourth wall. And then in a way, he's being consumed by the barren land and then sort of disappeared into the earth. Would you say that choice of ending a way you make a kind of a judgment on his behavior, his action?
I think that when he looks towards the camera, maybe he's actually looking towards something which is inevitable for him. He needs to step into this place in which, and then in that place, he disintegrates. So is it us that he's looking at, or is it that place or that space? I don't know. It's open for interpretation. And the ending for me, it's not a judgment. I think that to think about this character is like, I think we all as humans deserve redemption, a chance for redemption. But then what is it? Like what is redemption individually from one person to another or from one character to another? And I think that inability to die, which is something which we all humans have, it's just we all know that we'll die one day. I think that creates also the possibility for the redemption for us. And for this character, if he does not even have that possibility and he disintegrates, then is it a punishment for him, or is it actually relieving in a way? So maybe again, like, it's not fully specific in that sense, but maybe it's, and I think that maybe in life, nothing's really one thing or another. It always depends, like, who's looking or who's talking about each particular thing.
So when Yena said what she did to her son towards the end, I was also feeling that there's an uncertainty of what she said was actually what she did, where it's more like a claiming of something that she may want to do, because from the off-screen sound, David, her husband, his reaction doesn't seem to correspond to the kind of action she claims she has done. So do you think she decide the fate of her son, or that is also something for us to figure out?
Well, for me, she decides, because how much do I need to show in that case? Like, do I need to, that's one case actually which I was really questioning all through the editing and also filming. And I knew that many people would be asking this question, but I don't want to show on screen how somebody is killing their own child. It's my choice as a director. I don't want to show it. Like, and do I need to show it? I think it's clear from her expression, from the way she looks at us. And as for his reaction, to me, it's totally adequate. And I know that maybe a person in Russia would run and scream, or another person in another place of the world would have more reserved emotion. It's again about the specific characters. And I think that David's character, I hope that I managed to build up to the point when we understand that this is how he reacts to things. He does not just run and like scream or again, like, and it's really interesting that you're asking this because I think it's again the media that teaches us that reactions are one way or another to specific things. Because in life things are not that clear, and because sometimes in life when the most horrible thing happen, we don't really react very, like, our emotions are not very external maybe in those moments.
And a question relating to the project, I noticed that Carlos Regadas was credited as the executive producer for the project. Did he also make films with some religious theme, where his aesthetics some way touch on that? Did you two have any discussion about your film approach?
No, because Carlos was like very supportive of the film, but until the point of when I really had the first cut, he did not read the script and he really didn't know what I was doing. It was more just supporting this idea that I really wanted to make a film, and he knew that I was working, and in a way he was surprised how I really said that I am starting to shoot on this date, and I was really shooting. So he was very supportive, and then we did the post-production in his facility in Mexico. But Carlos has not read the script, or we did not discuss it in a straightforward way, because also I really like to keep things very, very private until it's time, until I have a cut probably to show. But we did talk a lot about cinema, or our approaches, or how we think, and it was a lot of exchange. But it's more like, if you meet Carlos, everybody, this is how he talks about this with everyone. I'm not an exception in this in this case. Like, I mean, I think he lives with cinema, so of course, like, he's talking about it like a lot.
So my last question: has the film been shown in your home country?
No, Not yet. And actually, I know why you're asking this about, because maybe you're curious what the reaction would be here.
Indeed.
Yes. I think that I need to prepare for the reaction. It has not been shown here. Few people have seen it, of course, like the mostly like film professionals, but it has not been shown publicly. And I do know that I need to prepare myself because of the because of certain religious groups, maybe more extremist religious groups, and also the portrayal of a woman and the portrayal of a detective. We will see.
But I hope the film is a very strong one, and then I hope the audience will see, wherever they are, will see the film in its merit. And I think there's some very powerful message inside the film. And then you have your very strong vision, as we just talked through. So good luck. I think I feel kind of, I sort of feel you when you said you have to prepare for the release, but whatever the outcome, best luck. And I hope you will you will find those audience who really appreciate your work. Thank you.
Thank you very much.